Failure in the Educational System by Dustin McFadden. The reasons for this research is to A. Analyze my own educational journey, B. To examine issues with the attitude towards failure, and C. To examine some of the pressures for students that they face in the educational system. Failure defined. Merriam-Webster defines failure as the omission of occurrence or performance, specifically a failing to perform an expected action, or B, a state of inability to perform a normal function. For one of my interviewees, Maggie, a recent college grad, on the flip side, this desire to succeed made any sort of failure or obstacle very difficult to digest. When I struggled in trigonometry, I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. Physics had me reevaluate my self-worth. Every obstacle seemed to be an indicator of how I was weak. For one of my interviewees, Carl, a mid-50s-year-old man who did not go to college, he said his parents basically did not accept failure because they knew their kid was one of the sharpest. And then myself, failure was always seen as an end rather than a turning point. Personal definitions and attitudes towards failure. Maggie's personal feeling was I'm not good at this versus an I am inadequate due to this. Carl was much more blanket statement. He said that failure came from a complete lack of effort. And myself, as I stated, I saw failure as more of an end rather than an opportunity to turn something around. Avenues for change. What should schools do? Schools should aim to provide a low-stress environment for their students, including psychology-driven educators and flexible grading systems. Psychology-driven educators meaning educators who understand the stresses of going through school. Educators who understand how to help students with their stress of going through school. And flexible grading systems that allow students to redeem themselves, that allow for points back, and maybe even tailor some assignments towards students that do not perform typically. Are degrees really worth the struggle? According to an NPR publication, 26% of graduates from public four-year colleges and 39% of grads from private four-year colleges are not gainfully employed upon graduation. And another point here, according to the New York Daily News, Americans owe $1.2 trillion in student loan debt, a number that has tripled in the last decade. So even compared to some brothers or sisters, students today are now paying much, much more than their siblings. Degrees really are worth the struggle. It affords people upward mobility. Bosses will see that and recognize the fact that there was effort put in order to complete something. There's a pay difference between people who have not earned a degree and people who have. And then degrees really afford respect. People learn to respect that degree and respect the effort that went in, sort of a coming of age. Outcomes. What can be done? We can vote. For congressmen that support education. Education is very important, and I think most people agree with that. We need to show our congressmen that their constituents feel that way. And secondly, we can encourage our students to try their hardest. We can support our students when they do actually fail. And we can coach our students to push for their future. Instead of treating failure as an ending point, we can help them understand that it isn't the end. Conclusions. Degrees, are they worth the investment? That question is better left to those who are in the situation. There are positives and negatives to going through university, and personally, I feel they far outweigh the negatives, but that is better left to people who are going through it themselves. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your time.